Lena Carter had never been one to announce her presence. She wasn't flashy, didn't go out of her way to draw attention. She preferred the background, the quiet spaces where she could observe, process, and move on. But tonight, she walked into the Crestwood Hotel, the high-end establishment she had built from the ground up, feeling something different. The large glass doors opened to the pristine lobby, polished marble floors reflecting the overhead lights. Guests passed by in quiet conversations, their voices hushed, creating a serene atmosphere. She had come in for a brief visit, a short trip to check in on the staff, perhaps to make sure that the hotel's reputation hadn't wavered. The management had assured her everything was in order, but Lena knew better than to take anything at face value. She had put too much into the Crestwood to let it run itself without oversight. She wasn't dressed in designer clothes like the usual guests who stayed there. Instead, Lena wore dark jeans, a simple jacket, and flat shoes, practical, nothing too extravagant. As she approached the front desk, a young woman named Sarah stood behind it, her name tag barely visible. "Good evening," Lena said, offering a warm smile as she approached. "I need a key for my room. Reservations under Carter." Sarah looked up, her expression giving away nothing. She scanned the screen before glancing back at Lena, her eyebrows furrowing slightly. "I don't see any reservation for a Carter," Sarah said, her tone polite but uncertain. Lena didn't flinch. She had heard this before. It was the look, the subtle doubt, she had encountered countless times. The hotel, after all, was her creation, but the moment she stepped into her own lobby, people seemed to assume she was just another guest. "It's fine," Lena said, her voice calm. "I own the hotel. Just need a key for my room." The words hung in the air, and for a moment, Sarah's eyes widened with confusion. She quickly recovered, picking up the phone to call the manager. Lena couldn't help but feel the familiar sting of being questioned. She wasn't angry, just tired. Tired of constantly having to prove herself in spaces she had built from the ground up. Sarah hung up the phone, her voice still polite, but now more hesitant. "Right, Mrs. Carter," she said. "We'll get you a key. Apologies for the confusion." Lena nodded and took the key, trying not to let the moment bother her. This wasn't about her, it was about the system. And she wasn't going to let it weigh her down. Lena had hoped to enjoy her quiet night. Instead, as she entered the elevator, she noticed the shift in atmosphere. The tension she'd felt earlier wasn't just in the air, it was palpable. It didn't take long before the hotel's general manager, Alex Miller, approached her. He was in his early 30s, impeccably dressed in a dark suit. When he saw Lena, his expression faltered for a split second before he put on a friendly, if slightly stiff, smile. "Ms. Carter, we seem to have had a mix-up at the front desk," Alex said. "I'm very sorry for any inconvenience. Please allow me to escort you to your room." Lena's gaze softened. She had worked with Alex for years and knew that he wasn't one to intentionally cause problems. Still, the undercurrent of the interaction, the skepticism, the surprise at her presence, wasn't lost on her. "There's no need for an escort, Alex," she replied, her tone calm but firm. "I'm sure you're busy. I just wanted a quiet night." Alex nodded, but his discomfort was palpable. He had worked at the Crestwood since it opened, but he still seemed to find it hard to believe that a woman like Lena could own something so grand. The stereotypes, the expectations, they still colored the way he saw her. Lena was used to it by now, but that didn't mean it didn't sting. "I'll make sure everything's sorted out," Alex said, his voice smooth, but Lena could sense the tension beneath it. "If there's anything you need, don't hesitate to call." Lena gave a small nod and watched him walk away, the quiet stillness of the hotel enveloping her once again. But this wasn't just about her. It was about how the world saw her and how she had to prove herself every single time. She walked down the hall to her suite, the weight of it all heavy in her chest. As she unlocked the door, Lena glanced around. The room was just as she remembered it, elegant, modern, and comfortable. But despite the luxury surrounding her, there was something hollow in the silence. She had built this place, made it a sanctuary for people, and yet every time she stepped into it, it was like she had to convince others she deserved to be there. Lena took a deep breath as she sat on the plush chair by the window, staring out at the city lights. She wasn't angry anymore. The familiar ache of being doubted had settled in her bones over the years, and she had learned how to let it go. But it didn't stop the quiet moments of realization, the moments when she had to remind herself that she didn't owe anyone an explanation. After a while, there was a knock at her door. Lena stood and opened it to find Sarah, the front desk agent, holding a tray with a small bottle of wine and a note. Sarah's face was earnest, apologetic. "Mrs. Carter," she began. "I just wanted to apologize again for the confusion earlier. We should have recognized you. It's just that, well, you don't always fit the image of what we expect from the owner." Lena smiled, her gaze steady but kind. She could see the discomfort in Sarah's eyes, the need to make amends. "I understand," Lena said gently. "Don't worry about it." Sarah hesitated before handing her the note. "I've worked here for a while now," she continued, "but I'm still learning what this place means. I want to do better." Lena looked down at the note. It was simple. "Thank you for your patience. We'll do better." The sincerity in Sarah's voice and the note left her with a sense of quiet peace. Maybe things weren't perfect yet. Maybe there would always be moments where people doubted her, where she would have to remind them of her worth. But that didn't matter. What mattered was that she kept showing up, quietly proving that she belonged, because she did. As she looked around the suite, Lena finally felt the weight of the day lifting. It wasn't about the hotel or the guests or even the staff. It was about how she walked through life, knowing her worth, without needing to justify it. Tomorrow, she would return to her meetings, to the grind of running a successful business. But tonight, she would sit in peace, knowing that change, however small, was always possible.